I'd like to call to order the Transportation Committee meeting on this Wednesday, December 13th at 4:01 p.m. For roll call, I have Alderwoman Pindell Charles to my right and Alderman Rob Savage to my left. So everyone is here. Can I get approval of the agenda?
So move for approval of the agenda.
Aren't you going to add these?
Oh, I'm sorry. And adding ID 3723 and ID 3123.
I will second that motion.
All in favor of amending the agenda?
Aye.
Aye. So involved with the cookies.
All right, agenda approved. Next up, we have approval of minutes from 11/8/23, the joint meeting with Finance Committee meeting. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great, those are approved. Next up on our agenda is 37, Kurt? Okay, thank you. ID 3723 is the Transportation Board update from Kirk Riegel.
Hello, I'm Kurt Riegel, Chairman of the Annapolis Transportation Board, and it's a delight to be here with you. I came by bicycle very much in spirit of the
Thank
later
you.
agenda item.
That's fantastic.
So I'm out of breath. Just a few remarks about your Netherlands experience, which I'm so happy that you had, because if you hadn't been there before, you'll see a glimpse of what some of us would like to see come to Annapolis. And you were close to where I lived for a year. Just outside of Den Haag is Leiden, where I stayed for a year. And that's right next door to Scheveningen, which is a town I gather you also visited on the seaside. That town, Scheveningen, is hard to pronounce. And it was used during the Second World War to discriminate against people who claimed they were Dutch but were really German, because the Germans couldn't pronounce it and they'd get shot.
Oh no.
Yes. But anyway, on the Netherlands, I lived there for a year. Bicycle culture is very much a part of life there. And if you ask the Dutch why there are so many bicycles, they say it's our culture. Well, if you ask Americans the same question, the answer is, for cars, we have so many cars because it's our culture. But in fact, the Dutch made a very deliberate policy decision back in the early 1970s to veer away from the course that they were on, which was to become an autocentric copy of what we have done in the United States. And as a matter of national policy, they started investing in bicycle infrastructure, which was safe and separated from automobile traffic. We made investments too, but we made investments in cars, in roads or infrastructure that was safe for cars, but not for people and bicycles. So in a sense, your investment, policy decisions to invest in infrastructure determines what the culture is going to be. And that's the message that I wanted to try to carry again. Invest in safe bicycle and alternative transportation infrastructure, and you will find that the culture follows that investment. The only other things that I wanted to say was to give you an update on what the Transportation Board has done. We submitted formal comments on ordinances 3023 and 3123, which had to do with parking regulations. And you should have those as you consider the next stages of that legislation. We mostly approved of the legislation rewrite as it stands right now. but did recommend that we abolish one of the parking zones as no longer necessary, and in fact, not in keeping with what the legislation calls for, the ordinance calls for. The second item was that we passed a formal resolution advocating a pedestrian crosswalk at the intersection of Duke of Gloucester and Compromise Streets. Sent that to the city manager and to you, Marcus, for their consideration. This is an intersection which is presently unsafe for pedestrians, and it's been under consideration by the city for a full decade. And we recommended that you finally bite the bullet and put in that crosswalk for pedestrians. No legislation is needed. It's just a matter of administration. And then finally, we are working on a resolution that will connect two pieces of the Annapolis bike path, the one which is on the other side of the Naval Academy Bridge and on our side of the Naval Academy Bridge. This is, the one on our side is under development. It's going to be markedly improved. But in between the two is the bridge itself, which is presently unsafe for bicycles. And we are going to forward a resolution to both you and the state that an investment be made in safe, separated infrastructure for bicycles crossing the bridge. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, and thank you for your input on the Netherlands.
Yeah.
We should have also reached out to you beforehand so you could have given us some pointers.
Okay. Pardon?
No, I said we should have reached out to you beforehand so you could have
Oh,
given
I
us
would have
some
loved to
pointers.
be with you on that trip. I bet it was fun.
It was really eye-opening in many ways, so
Yeah.
thank you so much for your report.
Good.
Next up on our agenda is ID 3123, which is the report by Marcus Moore, Director of Transportation. And I'm going to just sort of ask Director Moore to kind of give an overview of all, I asked you already, to give you to give us an overview of all of the projects that are going on that relate to transportation and parking. And then also we will relate it into the Netherlands trip. So, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I'll outline that and do the Netherlands tour, if that's okay, towards the end.
Is your mic on?
I think it is, but maybe I'm not close
Okay.
enough.
There you go.
Right, first, I'd like to update the committee on microtransit. Just to give you an update on how this is working, a vendor has been selected, and their contract is now being reviewed in our Office of Law, and we hope to have that contract fully executed in the next week or so. To give people a reminder of what microtransit is, kind of think of it as a service being provided, by an app, or it's app-driven. The same way as which someone would book Uber or Lyft, but it's for buses. A potential rider would call our dispatch office or schedule a trip, as they would schedule a trip that they would use the ability of using an app to actually schedule that trip. So our service area will actually grow a bit using adding the microtransit service in our fixed route, because we'll be able to meet the needs of neighborhoods that may not be within the transit bus stop area right now. And some of those reasons why we may not be stopping as many places as some may think, because there may not be a need for 30-minute, 40-minute, or every hour to have a bus going down certain areas. So microtransit will be based on ridership. So those demands, they could be able to call in and make a reservation, and I'll have more particulars on how that app works, like within 2 hours. Some of you may know about our ADA, complimentary ADA service, which is not app-driven, but you're taking a reservation, and always is the day before. So between 8:30 and 4:30 the day before, we're taking reservations out up to 2 weeks. But with microtransit, you're actually doing the shared ride, similar to what we were doing with Annapolis Go. But this give us a better opportunity to serve more of the city that's being underutilized. Within, or paratransit kind of goes within 3/4 of a mile of a fixed route bus that we have a bus stop. This one will probably extend a little bit further, more like a mile or mile and a half further along. So we'll connect with the county. When you think about Annapolis Mall, that is the county on the other side of Route 2. But think about other places that are underserved because there's not a lot of ridership as you go further east down Bay Ridge Road, or further, I guess, considered south on Spa Road off of Forest, or other areas down Edgewood, which becomes Bimby Beach Road. So we look at those opportunities to allow us to do a little bit more with what we have. And that'll be starting out. And we're actually leasing the software, not buying the software. So the companies that do this kind of work have done it or are doing it in other pockets of our state and around the country. It is a growing trend of microtransit that is. And I'll be able to give more updates as we go along as it's starting out, but it's pretty exciting to look at something like this, what we're doing. I want to talk briefly about our schedules. We've been revamping them. Sure.
Can we ask about the microtransit?
Yes.
So is that so the software, is that to replace what we had with Annapolis Go?
It is, pretty much. Annapolis Go was also, when it was here, the same type of service. If you want, kept using the words watered down Uber or Lyft, where they're going to go really close to where you are, where there was a geofence with Annapolis Go based on what the needs were. When we looked at Hillman Garage and what we really wanted to keep the circulation flow for downtown businesses and all, getting them from like Park Place Garage towards downtown, and then we start expanding a little bit more. Their hours of operation was a little bit more limited. So it is, in theory, the same way. You have that app. So there will be an app that will be used. And of course, we'll be spreading that out. Or you could actually call our office and make a reservation. Based on needs and all that, we'll have vans or, buses available to meet that demand. So Alderman Savage, you're absolutely right how it's going to play out. And we will be servicing the areas that we already go. So we wouldn't be going all the way to Edgewater, obviously, or all the way down to the community college, but we'll be mirroring what we do now and probably a little bit further, tying in a little bit more with Anne Arundel County, whereas Annapolis Go was just going as far as Route 2. But the initial thoughts were the circulation of Park Place Garage to City Dock and throughout some of the neighborhoods.
Okay, and so it's not fixed route at all. It's just going to be.
It's a component of,
okay,
but not fixed route. In fixed route, you have a schedule. Yeah. So, even if it's on a headway where you don't have a schedule, let's say the state shuttle is a fixed route because every 20 minutes it goes the same place. This is not a fixed route. It's going to be more of a deviation of that to be able to go in different areas within other parts of the city based on demand. So a little bit further than where we are now, or where we service now, but it is a part of our core transit service, I guess I should say.
And so what do you envision, how do you envision people using this?
So it'll be the same cost as we have now, broken down to different, categories of reduced fare. But someone, let's say right now, it being around 4:15, calls in or uses the app, and they're right here, 160 Duke of Gloucester. We do have a bus stop further down up on Duke of Gloucester. And they want to be picked up here, and they're looking to go to, let's just say, the Bay Ridge Giant Shopping Center. So they'll make that reservation, but remember, if they want to go now, they have to plan their trip. So it's not going to be right now. We can catch the bus, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, where we can see when the next fixed route is coming through. The people that will use it that may not have total use of their mobile device will still be able to call our transit office between those certain hours to make a reservation. So it is a planned trip. You have to kind of look at what you want to do into the future. And we'll be able to define what X equals a little later on. It could be as little as 30 minutes, but it could be up to an hour and a half or 2 hours. We'll set those parameters. Based on the algorithms of what we have, I guess we'll be able to figure out how quickly, and because our footprint in the city of Annapolis and a little bit of the county is a bit smaller than what Anne Arundel County has. So we might be able to get it a little quicker. So we'll be able to pass out more information and share more information, and each month I'll be able to give you more details on this program.
Okay. My last question, does that include the e-shuttles that you, or is that for a different purpose?
No, that was a little bit different because that's running, because it's a fair weather vehicle.
Yeah.
And I was glad to see that it ran Saturday and Sunday. Saturday was pretty good. Sunday we kind of rained quite a bit, but we made it through. And I'm very limited with, even though that's 5 passengers, 6 counting the driver, depending on the weight and all that, I'm barely getting through like 7 hours in a day on the loops that we're operating right now. But that one is basically set aside from this microtransit or from our fixed route service. It's kind of an add-on as we look at our mobility options to kind of keep things moving around.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Sure. I had one quick question as far as the microtransit. I know that you said that right now the contract is with the Office of Law. Is there an estimated time of when it will start?
Once we get to working with that vendor, law says, hopefully next week we'll have a fully executed contract. And then, with holidays and all that, as far as setting up our first meetings with our staff, starting to get the infrastructure that we need, as I talked last month about tablets for the buses or whatever computer systems that we need in the back office through ITS, our Information Technology Services. Getting that set up, and as we train our dispatchers, call takers on the other end, the drivers won't be as hard because they're going to follow, learning how to navigate the tablet they'll have. The backside is putting the information in, creating, as you may call a PNR, which is a passenger name record. So that repeat person, we can kind of pull them up with a PNR number. So that kind of training, how long that'll take, probably a week. But then the installation, you never know how long it takes to do it over and over again, and we become more proficient by practicing it out. So as we roll it out, that'll be the first thing to see how that goes. It'll be pretty redundant with the other routes being out there with the orange and the purple and the others. Kind of look at them complementary versus competing, because one of our routes, the orange route, is one of the ones that is not used as much, and that's a perfect one to be used for the microtransit. And of course the purple route that comes in Monday through Saturday in the evenings after 7 o'clock and all day Sunday and holidays. So we're figuring out how this rolls out. It'll never replace the full transit fixed route. I hope to complement it and add in more service for the community.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. What I'd like to talk to you guys about, what I gave you, like the where's my bus, and then there's multi-sheet schedules there. With the help of Mitchell Stevenson, our public information officer, and Madeline, who's in the CTTV office, helping us to put together and refine our schedules. So you look at the front page of each of them. It talks about commonly asked questions, and the back side will have information in Spanish and English. So these new schedules, they'll have this QR code that you'll see. We'll put them up in the bus shelters. It's really a code that'll take you to the transit app. There's a transit app that you can pull down from your Google store or your Apple store. And that has about 450 different transit agencies or services around the country. You turn on your location services, and it'll give you the ones that are near you. So you will see the MTA 70 bus that comes through Annapolis. You will see those MTA commuter buses in the morning, the 210, the 215. You will see all of our transit buses. So once you turn it on, the front of your screen will come up with your location, having your location services on. I'm trying to find it here. I can talk you through it. Give me 1 second here. I can't find it really quickly. It'll say where to. And if you type in, let's just say the mall, and your location services will show that you're here. So it'll give you the option of catching the green route that comes by here. It'll take you all the way to Eastport and catch a bus to go to the mall. Or it'll tell you to walk the, quarter mile to Main Street and catch the green route going towards the mall, which is a lot quicker. So this transit app is not just for buses. It'll also give you the distance in bike or walking. So the transit app has always been there, and for us, it is, I want to call it a predictor. It's an electronic schedule. Some locations do have AVL, automatic vehicle locator, like we have on the Magenta shuttle. We use Translock there, and you can pull up where you are, and you can actually see these dots moving from where you're going and where it is. It is our hope we'll be getting an RFP out shortly, this year, well, 2024, for getting AVL on all of our buses. So this app that I just showed you here will become better in real time. It'll really show you, you'll have to type in, where you want to go, and it'll give you all the options of how best to get there by bike, walking, or public transit. Let's see.
Is that something that, if this will be on the bus shelter?
Yes.
If I click on it for the first time, then do I have to download the app in order to use it?
Some people don't like downloading the app, but I have downloaded it, so I can just go to the app, put my location finder on, and put an address, 308 Chickapin Round Road, and it'll tell me how to get there. Those that don't want to do it, they can scan and find out. It'll ask you the same questions, but you don't have to download it. So you do have those two options of having it, which is not a bad app to have, or just clicking on it when need be. So what our plan is to have this Where's My Bus in all the bus shelters, and then we'll figure out how we can put a map in each of the shelters that will dictate which services come through that shelter or that area. Because not all buses go to the mall, go to Eastport. Most of them do, except for the orange. So there's certain places that are, big transfer areas that it would make a lot of sense to be able to do something like that. And unfortunately, we know that certain things, people like to write their name on them or other things on it. We'll have to replace it. So we'll keep, trying to get the word out, making it as, easy to navigate and find where that bus is and what they could expect.
Thank you.
I'd like to talk about, the three of you were there with me on Halloween. On October 31st, we did a route familiarization with the ATC. The tour was arranged by myself for the Transportation Committee. We like to roll it out for folks that may be interested on the Transportation Board and also anyone else that would be interested. But I, along with my Transportation Superintendent, gave that guided tour on several routes. And we were just kind of limited with time. We tried to, get through as many as we could. And I think we did, I know we did the red, the brown, the green. We didn't get to the orange or the state shuttle. But maybe if you have other questions about that tour, we never got a chance to do a follow-up of what your thoughts were. However, I do have follow-ups from some of the people that gave us some good, feedback. The bus shelter on Monroe Street in Eastport, it was fixed the next week, the glass. I got my notes back in the office. I should have brought it with me, but we had some folks, as you remember, that wanted to share with us their comments and concerns, and they did. And we took advice, and we took it to heart, and we were able to correct some things pretty quickly. Alderwoman O'Neill, you gave us some information to try to work on that bus shelter on Bay Ridge Avenue that abuts up against that shopping center that we need to get into, that area there to make it more ADA compliant. So that was really good for me, of the help that you were able to see certain things that were going on. And I think we had some questions, Alderman Savage. I see we have representatives from SP here, and the things that we saw on Tom Drive. Their staff was able to give us some really good information on how we should approach that parking problem that's pushing folks from their apartment or condo parking lots to the streets and becoming more of an issue. So under John and Jason's leadership of SP, they've been able to really take a good hard look on things that we, the city, can do, red curbing and other safety aspects like crosswalks and the like. But I thought that was very good, and I thank you guys for taking that approach or helping us out with that, with your staff. I didn't know if you had any other questions from the 31st, our trip, that maybe I can help address or later on. Yes.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Just want to thank you. It was excellent. It was very eye-opening, and also listening to the passengers as well, and some of the things that they thought should be added or detracted from what we already have. That's always good to have the boots on the ground and to listen to those who ride the bus every day, whether we agree or not, but it's worth listening to and taking it to heart. But thank you so much for that tour. It really was nice.
Oh, thank you.
Really was good. Very productive.
Thank you. So, like I mentioned, hopefully get more of the Transportation Board and the rest of your colleagues from the council out to see and make some recommendations, because we want to make it better. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know because we think that that's the only way to do it, and there are other ways to approach it.
Sure. Alderman Savage.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. What the director was referring to, he was referring to a bit of an issue we had down Forest Hills Drive, used to be known as Forest Hills Apartments, where the apartment complex is now limiting the number of vehicles that the owners can have, which has caused them to put their extra vehicles out on the public streets and into some of the nearby communities. And so that's been causing some issues with people parking where they shouldn't, too close to a stop sign, which is maybe right next to a school, Tyler Elementary. And yes, we're trying to improve enforcement in that regard, but frankly, it's gotten me thinking like, well, how do you address this otherwise? I guess the only other thing I can think of is to have a parking district where people are restricted as far as how many cars and where they can go for the whole community, but I don't know if I want to go to that direction yet.
Right.
But SP's been very responsive on that, so thank you.
Thank you. The last point I want to bring up is Netherlands trip, and CCTV.
So that moves us to our next ID 17473.
Oh, okay, following along, okay. They left me to try to talk and work this thing here at the same time, so let's see what I can do. Let's see. Madeline, where are you? Let's see here. Where do I want to start? Caitlin, I think we're going to do Secretary Floor first. And then from there, it's got to go back to... Yeah. Would you like to see Secretary Floor's presentation also? Or her speech?
You saw it already, didn't
Yes.
you? I don't think we need.
Okay, we can skip through it? Okay, we'll go.
Is it the same one from
Yes.
the works? Okay.
We don't need to play it.
Okay, we'll go now. Just to...
Technical difficulty. Make it full screen.
There we go. Okay. Okay, back on November 11th, a delegation of us, and they won't go, no. How about if I just talk for a minute, and we'll show pictures later. On November 11th, there was a delegation of us that went to the Netherlands to look at transportation, mobility, water, flood mitigation, and how they're dealing with those issues, as the Netherlands is 70% of the country is under sea level. It was very eye-opening and rewarding. We rode or walked, took trams or trains all throughout, no Ubers. And it wasn't the time of year like what we do here in the United States, biking for recreation. The windy, rainy days weren't the kind of days like a walk in the park where it was like a fun time to do, but it was okay. We were prepared. We were told what to expect and had our rain gear and all as we went through. But what we found was that the Dutch think more about how to accommodate the cyclists more so than the automobile, and their infrastructure supports it in a more friendly and safer manner than we actually do here in the United States. So one can't help but marvel at the convenience and the ease with which the Dutch traverse the cities. And this is thanks to a comprehensive public transportation system that they have, from trains to trams, buses to bikes and scooters. The options are as diverse as they are accessible, as we witnessed firsthand the various modes of transportation that I just mentioned. In the Netherlands, cycling is not just a means from getting from point A to B, it is a way of life. And interestingly, some commuters own not one or two, but several bikes. But what they normally do is have one bike at the beginning of the route from home until the train station, and then one at the other end to go from the train station to their work or their final leg of their journey. What we found is the trains that go to a longer distance, like we actually took the train with all of our luggage in tow from the airport to the town in Den Haag where we stayed. Trains find their way through the urban landscapes, offering a convenient and environmentally friendly mode of commuting within these cities, and the trams that navigate the urban cores, ensuring the heartbeat of the city remains uninterrupted. So we saw a lot of city activity where it was just footpath, bike or scooter versus car, but they did coexist in a lot of areas that we saw. Biking and scootering are deeply ingrained in the Dutch culture, with dedicated paths, trails, streets that are controlled by traffic devices that sometimes gave the scooter or the bike the right of way over the automobile. And these alternate modes of travel coexist seamlessly with the vehicular traffic. In a country where school buses are a rarity, secondary schools are typically within walking distance or easily accessible through their extensive public transportation network. What caught my eye were the bike attachments that were there to carry younger children, as much as two. And they also had these saddlebags in the rear to carry groceries and the like. When we talked to some of the natives, they were like taking a car to a grocery store. Where are you going to park? So they were able to navigate this even through colder weather. And like I said, we were there in early November, that they do this year round. This highlighted the Dutch's commitment to the family life and the effortless inclusion of their children in their daily chores. Notably, we noticed that parking garages that we observed were all underground, emphasizing the limited above-ground parking and the prominence of alternative transportation modes, as I mentioned. The Dutch have prioritized sustainable mobility and sprawling parking. The Dutch have prioritized the mobility versus sprawling parking lots. The Netherlands is an inspiration for urban planners worldwide, and their commitment to a comprehensive, sustainable public transportation system, coupled with a deep cultural embrace of cycling, paints a portrait of a society where efficiency and environmental consciousness goes hand in hand. And one of the things that we noticed how they had parking garages underground at the beach. And wouldn't it be cool if we were able to do something like that going to Sandy Point, and deeper still, all the way down to Ocean City? How does that kind of infrastructure work? And they're doing all this underground. What we also noticed with a lot of their buses and trams and all, it's electric. There's a lot of coexistence with walking and biking and electric scooter and electric bicycles. I even witnessed some folks in a wheelchair that go, as fast as some of the electric bikes coming through. Because folks that did ask, it's like, what do you do over 30, 40, 50 years old? And we saw a lot of folks biking at 70, 75. We didn't stop them, how old are you? But you can tell they weren't as young as me. And they were making it through. But, there's a healthier culture. A lot of restaurants, establishments had parking, outside space for bikes. And it would be neat if we could do something like that in Annapolis to make this room for bike parking. And this is so big that some of the larger train stations had indoor bike parking. They're just set up for the growth. And it wasn't always that way. Maybe 25, 30 years ago, the 70s, maybe 50. But they've grown into a way of looking at alternative transportation, and the automobile is secondary. And some of the vehicles we saw, it looks like it was a different level of living of those who had automobiles, and a lot of those were electric. So it was very eye-opening and good to be a part of it in the tours and the places we went each day, trying to keep up with some of these serious cyclists that were in our group. It was still amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much. I don't know if Alderman Savage noticed this or not, but I don't recall.
I'm sorry. Hold on.
I don't recall seeing a lot of electric vehicle charging stations. Did you see many?
No, I saw a few on the street, like public chargers. They kind of blended in, but not.
And there were a couple in that underground garage at the place that Kurt knows how to say.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one.
But so it's interesting that their vehicles are progressing more towards electric, but we didn't see a lot of infrastructure for that. But I wasn't looking for it either. I think I was looking more for the bike parking lots. If you could take maybe 3 ideas that you saw or found on your Netherlands trip and implement them within the next year, what would they be? I'm putting you on the spot.
You are. More dedicated bike paths. Some of the things that Director Burr Vogel and I talked about, it's like some folks, myself and probably included, don't feel safe crossing Spa Creek, the Compromise Bridge, I guess it's Spa Creek Bridge, even though you have a little room, you have a sidewalk and all. And what you're trying to do also across the South River on Route 2. If we're able to build a space on the other side of the railing, how wide would it need to really be? 24 inch, 2 feet, 3 feet, and the integrity of it is really just a walking path, but somebody that's able to bike. Because some folks in our delegation that live in Edgewater would love to ride to work. I'm afraid of crossing the South River, coming across, even though you have a sidewalk there, but biking. That would be really good. I don't know, we can cost out what it would, how much it would cost to build something like that. But making biking more friendly within the city. I would love to see more open area, open space dining. We saw some things where you could, the streets were closed down for seasonal times. Good events would be, like what we've done with Market Space, but Main Street, Maryland Avenue. Certain things, maybe, during this holiday Midnight Madness, those 3 weeks. Maybe it's, the month of December, the month of July or something. But we got to grow into that and look at what we're doing. City Doc is going to be that step in that right direction of more open spaces where you're not looking at creating a nicer parking lot unless you're parking your family on a blanket, doing more that you can do in green space kind of thing and enjoy more of the nature of what we have in this beautiful city on the water. That's only 2, isn't it?
Yeah.
The third one to go again? No. Making, biking, just how do we get the education like the Dutch done? What they've been doing was more of teaching the kids when they're younger. You saw a lot of kids. When we saw one school let out on day 1 when we first got in, and not parents weren't coming up in their mom vans or their soccer vans and all. They're walking out, they're riding out, they're heading out, they're doing their own thing. But the independence, I think, cycling gives you that independence until you get your license at 16. They're looking at the independence at 12, 13, 14. In the groups, safety of course. But being more geared, have the city geared more to cycling, how we do that. And we're doing more with, painting the lines, giving the 3 feet. But I know some of us or some of your colleagues work, not far away, maybe 3 miles from their work, but, navigating Riva Road and some of the other roads to get there might be a bit of a challenge.
Right. I'm going to add one to your list because you and I talked about it, but that was making our current public transportation system more everybody. So that it's not seen as something that you use if you don't have means, but you actually are using it if you do have means because your means are wanting to be most efficient, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. You hit the nail on the head. Giving that opportunity where somebody has that choice, because sometimes people ride that don't have a choice. That is their choice and their only choice. So making it something that's more desirable, to someone that says I can leave my car there and I can get where I want to go. And maybe not in the same time of me driving, if I can get from my driveway to the car and I can park very close to my work, but being able to use public transportation or the buses. One good thing is, I think most people know that all of our buses do have a bus rack that can hold up to two bikes on each bus. And they are used. Even some of the winter, colder weather, maybe not so much in the sleet and snow and all. I haven't seen many, but in the colder weather, yes, we've still transported folks with their bikes.
Okay. Alderwoman Kendall-Charles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I love those 4 ideas. I think they're great. They really, truly are. I walk as much as I can. On Saturday, I walk from Parole to 77 West Street with the reentry program and back home. And you even see more, of course, when you walk than if you're driving. But I love these 4 ideas. I really, truly, truly do think that. And it's doable. Mm-hmm. It's very doable. And so we can certainly pursue those.
Thank you.
Alderman Savage. I'm going to pose the same question to you. But you can ask your question first.
Can you send us those your answers to that at some point?
Sure.
It'd be good to have the.
Sure, I will.
So, I guess my question for you, because one of the things I've been working on is, we mentioned Monday, there's a revision to our adequate public facilities ordinance that's in the works. It's in the Planning Commission. Because I have a lot of amendments to it right now, but one of the new ones I threw in the mix was, so I was reading through, is we currently have an APF for pedestrian infrastructure, sidewalks, as well as road, right? But we don't have anything for cycling. But when I was reading through it, the road and the sidewalks fall underneath Public Works currently in our APF. And so I was just thinking, cycling, it seems to me, especially cycling, but even the others, obviously there's overlap between Department of Transportation and Public Works. But it seems to me like, well, cycling, maybe that's something that, I'm just wondering like which department should take the reins on some of these things. And so I guess my question to you would be, like, what do you envision and what are your hopes as far as what role your department will play as we make this transition as far as the cycling infrastructure, identifying paths, routes, getting things installed, the education. Did you envision that more of that coming from your department, or a mix, or both? Or
yeah, probably a mix. With Public Works having more engineering and planners and that and the like, but what we can help come to the table with is just other ideas on what it should and could look like. As we start to build our infrastructure that is more geared towards the cyclist and how we go about it. We do have, Kwaku is there as a planner that does regularly review plans from, planning and zoning, and DPW being on some of those committees with them. I think it's a collaborative effort to see where the talent is and just kind of think outside the box on how we approach this. And, sometimes it's really good to get those, I guess you call it low-hanging fruit, the easy ones first to give you the hurrah that we can do this. And people can start seeing something changing. That journey of 1,000 miles does begin with the first step or the first bike, the first path. And I think growing upon what we started, keep that momentum as we connect those paths that go from West Annapolis, cutting through the city and on the other side, east Annapolis Neck and all. So it'll be interesting to see, but I think we can come to the table and iron out some ideas to kind of push our agenda forward.
Yeah, and I think there is a lot of overlap, because planning and zoning has done a lot with identifying bike routes. But in the past, when the city had a dedicated bike, what was the title? Coordinator or planner. I know Brian does work on that, but that's not his entire job. But when we had a dedicated bike planner that was in your department about 15 years ago, there's Ian Banks. And so I guess that's just something maybe to put a seed in your head for the next budget and beyond, is be a good conversation to have with the city manager and this committee just about it. Because frankly, I think it'd be good to just getting off the top of my head, I think it'd be good to get a transportation, maybe bicycle specific engineer in your department. I think that'd be a good asset potentially to the city and to your department.
That would be, yeah. Thank you.
Just to throw out some other ideas, you can follow the Cycling Embassy on Instagram, and they post some interesting things that they've done over there. So they also cyclists can claim money basically on their tax bill annually for every mile they cycle to and from work. And so on average, employees cycle 9 kilometers back and forth from the Netherlands. So that works out to be $450 or euros a year. So maybe that's something we want to look to. Maybe the city could start offering that for our employees and see how it goes, and see if we can get other companies to make that as we get the infrastructure installed. Another idea just to throw out there I saw is the speed limit on 80% of the roads in Amsterdam will be lowered to a maximum of 30 kilometers an hour, which is roughly 18 miles per hour. 80% of the roads. And
80%?
Yeah. And so I think currently I'm guessing that's probably handled in Public Works, but I think that's a good conversation to have with them, is maybe we want to look to slow down some of these roads. You've heard me before on Edgewood Road. I think traffic goes pretty quickly on there. But
yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was interesting as we really try to make it safer for cyclists and pedestrians.
Thank you. I'm going to throw out there that I have an idea that I think that we can implement very quickly. And if you go to slide number 30, you can go forward. Basically, it's creating more parking lots that are pervious surfaces. Up in that left-hand corner is an example of that pervious surface parking lot, where it's bricks, but there's space between where the grass grows. That's something I think that we can do. And I know that there's going to be a limited amount of parking at City Dock once that's renovated. And it would be amazing if that parking lot could be that. So that's my idea. I didn't put myself on the spot.
Which parking lot?
There's going to be a small parking lot remaining at City Dock.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And in that remaining space, it would be great if it could be an integrated pervious lot.
Yeah.
Every little bit helps. Do you have any other questions?
Oh, no, I think this is, I love this. First one, more dedicated bike paths, more friendly. 2, more open space dining. City Dock is a step in the right direction. 3, education like the Dutch, including educating younger kids. And number 4, making current transportation system more for everybody. It's a choice and not a necessity.
Yeah.
Got it. And the creating more parking impervious surface, especially focusing really at the city dock.
Great. Alderman Savage, did you have something
Yeah,
else?
just on the city dock, I think that is something we should look at maybe for more of it. I'm not quite so sure how grass is going to hold up on all of it, so we may want to incorporate more permeable pavers. So, and then I forgot to answer your other question about 3 things we could do quickly. And I know I offered, I guess, some other ideas, but some other things would be allocating a portion of our road resurfacing money towards cycling infrastructure. Another, which I've requested legislation on, is no turn on red on all of our traffic signals. Because when I've been trying to walk a lot more, and I walked to my town hall last night, and just crossing over Bay Ridge there, Forest Drive, and somebody almost pulled out and hit me because they just don't look. They're busy trying to see if they can turn by looking left. And my son, biking to school now, he even said it to me even before I brought it up. He said he doesn't feel safe with some of the lights because, so in any case, there is a movement nationally to try to do that. So I have legislation I requested to require that on all city lights, unless Public Works has some compelling argument why it's needed to keep in place. But another thing I'm looking at would be getting money for a circulation study that was mentioned when we were over there. As a good first step to look at traffic circulate. Where do we want the traffic to go, the cars to go or not go, but also identifying a bike. Where do we want the bikes to go? Like a clear bike network. Do we want to? I think the other thing they've talked about is you start with some of the major. I watched one of the documentaries that we were sent a link to, which I think we should do a showing of, but they mentioned starting with the major routes. So if we could have a WE trail connecting all the way around the whole city to the one on Bay Ridge, and then you go to the neighborhood routes and see what you can do with those more local paths. But in any case, those are the 3 things I had.
Thank you. I will say I never knew that transportation was so exciting. I believe that is all, unless there was something else that you wanted to add, Director Moore?
No, I think that's all I have for this time around. We're
that's
sorry I couldn't get the slides to go for you quicker while we're presenting.
Okay.
But that was it.
All right. I did have one question that didn't pertain to the Netherlands trip, and it was last month we had that joint meeting with Finance and Transportation Committee where we talked a lot about the parking, very specifically the garage, the Hillman garage, but also zones 1 and 2 in the city as far as the street parking. And you are taking all of those questions, comments, and suggestions to the parking companies. Are we going to have, is it January or February that we'll be able to do a re-meet?
Yes, we discussed in November that starting in January, a representative from each of the parking companies, contractors, will be available to answer questions, but we'll be able to talk prior to find out if there's specifics we want to have an open discussion with. So clearly, the January meeting, we can do both or do each, every other month. So yeah, we'll be ready to discuss those in greater detail in January.
Okay. I know that there are a lot of residents frustrated with parking in general, both residents that live downtown and are frustrated with the drawn-out system that they're having to use in order to get guest passes and things like that. But most importantly, we're trying to get people to come to Hillman Garage and visit the downtown businesses, and we really need to get that, the kinks worked out of that.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
So we look forward to hearing more from them in January.
Yeah.
Yes, Alderman?
Thank you. Yes, what was it, last week or week before last, there was a meeting at Eastport concerning City Dock, and a gentleman posed a direct question to me, how do we get Ward 3 downtown? And my answer was, I really don't know. But what I can provide is just a snippet, at least when I was a child back in the 60s and 70s and 50s. My mom and I used to come down every Saturday to shop at Peerless, The Leader, Reed's, 5 and 10 cent store, Slama's, the list goes on. And that was not unusual, especially for African Americans in parole. I can speak for parole, especially ladies who were in either teachers or in the professional realm. We had one lady who was the first African American executive administrative assistant to the governor, who lived in parole, was from parole. So a lot of those folks would come downtown and try on clothes and buy clothes and eat and that sort of thing. And a lot of African Americans lived on Fleet Street, Shaw Street, downtown. That went away. I won't get into the particulars. So there is not. I did ask a gentleman who was at that meeting, who lives in Heritage, who was white, and he said it was because it's not convenient. When you can go to the mall or you can go to the restaurants right outside of the city line, where parking's not an issue or it doesn't cost anything. So I've been just kind of trying to think about, and what I did mention, I can't remember who I sent the email to, maybe we could have ward days at downtown that would, I think Ms. Fogarty, and talking about what can bring everybody downtown again. And I know we're working on some historical things. We are with Ms. Fogarty as far as videos and people being interviewed and how that's all going to look. I'm not quite sure, but it does beg the question, why don't people come downtown when they used to traditionally all the time? And so that's something that I've been kind of rolling around in my head, but it was a direct question to me. And I said, I just don't know. But since that time, I've been just trying to think of ways. And I said, well, maybe we can have a Ward 2 or Ward 7 or Ward 3 day or something where there's something specific to that ward that would bring people downtown. So that's just kind of my 2 or 3 cents nickels worth of information. But maybe you can provide us with
I think that old cliche of build it and they will come, more so than the ward, you're looking at that that age group. So what is it that will draw? Because I, like you, but growing up in the north, there were no malls. It was going downtown with your parents.
Right.
And you had the movie theaters and everything else. So before City Dock gets redeveloped, and once it does get redeveloped, you have those those teen days or whatever days of, certain things that will draw. What's drawing them to the mall is the variety of different shops and places to eat. So what will draw them in certain avenues of the same, it's like, well, what is it that tween likes, that teen likes, that, just getting ready to graduate from high school, male or female, but what is it that they want to see or do that could bring them down? What kind of events that will bring all the wards of that age group there versus a Ward 3 day? Because the thing you're mentioning is like, well, what is it that they want? And hard for us to look at the younger ones, because the older ones will say, well, I have a car, I'm going to go to Ocean City, Virginia Beach, wherever. But some of the others, what can we do to, make it interesting to come back downtown? Because when you look at it, what is it for a 14-year-old that we have right now? An ice cream shop, if they have certain things that are going on at City Dock, that may be, but how long are we holding their attention?
And oftentimes it's music.
Yes.
That's really a lot of it. Music will bring everybody out. I'm just saying Ward 3 because Ward 3 used to come downtown. So if you, and I can't speak for the other wards, I was just throwing that out as examples. But if you said it was a Ward 3, a lot of the older people would go, well, wow, man, what do they got going on down there? That they used to have when we used to come, and pair that with music. I was asked by one local group from Parole that does a lot of music gigs, and they were having a hard time trying to get a gig downtown. And so they asked me to assist them. I don't think it ever came to fruition, But I know that would bring folks downtown. So we just got to get a little more creative in how we approach this. But, like I said, for Ward 3, it's a targeted area of people who used to come downtown. And I know when we have the Chambers Park concerts, we've had people come as far away as North Carolina. We've had upwards of 1,000 people out there. And so music is a kind of a bringing together of folks. So a combination of, old school kind of day, and for the younger folks, new school kind of day. But no, I think there are ways that we can do it. So I'm definitely interested in hearing all kinds of suggestions that we could do to bring that about.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that we've been, the last few years we've had the interns, and some of them were high school and middle school, and, tasking them with some of the things, like you said, with the music, with Chambers Park, a lot of the free concerts they had maybe at Annapolis Town Center, but the movie night, as they've had in other wards, over in 7 in the parking lots and all. But yeah, what is it that we can do safely that we can manage? That's a good idea. How do you bring them together?
Yeah, and now that we have the city dock and we've done the Hillman Garage, it's the perfect time to think of these different ideas. We've got a little bit of time to think of it. So it's the perfect opportunity, and people can walk, bike, and whatever to get there. So that can be enhanced as well. Yeah, the pop-up shops like we did, I think it was in October, with the first level of the parking garage, they had almost like the flea market, but you have that at City Dock. But you have a variety, like we've done with Family Day, Weems Wayland, but you do something like that at City Dock. Okay, that's a conversation worth continuing. Thank you, Director Moore. Thank you.
Great. Alderman Savage, do you have any? All right. I think if there's no further questions or business, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
That was great.
Yep.
And it was